It's Baxy's Musical Podcast.
Okay, listen. It takes a very special level of talent, tenacity, and endurance to have a music career that's lasted for nearly 60 years. Some people don't even last that long, and neither do their music. And most people don't sell 70 million records while doing it. And that would include the 8 albums that went gold in the U.S. and the other 5 albums that went platinum. And yet John Lodge of the Moody Blues has done all of those things. John Lodge is not only one of the greatest bass players on the planet, he's also written a number of great songs by the Moody Blues, absolute classics like I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band, Ride My Seesaw, and many more. In fact, the Moody Blues were so successful that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had no choice but to induct them in 2018 when fans became outraged by their inconspicuous snubbing. The Moody Blues were one of those bands that crossed multiple genres. They were part of the British invasion. They were an R&B band. They were a psychedelic band. They were progressive, and very often they were just a great rock and roll band that had enormous success. John Lodge has just released a couple of new singles from the quarantine, and for the Moody Blues fans out there, I promise you, you will be pleased. And so, it was a real pleasure to talk to the legendary John Lodge from the Moody Blues on Baxy's Musical Podcast. So, I got to tell you, 1984, I saw the Moody Blues at Summerfest in Milwaukee. I was there with my mother, and it was an outdoor amphitheater, and we were surrounded by a bunch of bikers, real tough, strong, drunken bikers. And this is a true story. It's absolutely it shows the connection that people have with the Moody Blues. All these bikers are sitting around and they are singing every song. And one of the songs you guys performed was one of the poetry songs. I think in this case it was Painted Smile. Right before Veteran Cosmic Rocker. And these bikers were standing on the seats and screaming those lyrics and those phrases out. Like, you guys did more for poetry in the biker community than maybe any other artist alive. It was absolutely glorious.
Yeah, it was a great time. We did have bikers. I remember the first tour we did in Texas. Bikers were everywhere, and I thought, bikers and Moody Blues, I wasn't too sure about that. I didn't know what the connection was.
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned the word connection because I really believe the Moody Blues are one of those bands where so many people are connected to that music, whether they really want to be or not. I mean, it's very hard to listen to these songs and not feel a sense of, I have known these songs my entire life. That's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, actually, I did a tour last year with Yes, called the Royal Affair Tour. No, 2019. I forgot. The COVID year has gone out of my brain. But the 2009, and we finished up in Northern California. And you just reminded me, there are a lot of bikers at that concert, and they see them relating to Isn't Life Strange was quite incredible, actually.
Yeah. You've spent a good deal of the quarantine and the pandemic actually pretty busy. I mean, you've been you've recorded a couple of singles. I know the one that just came out, "The Sun Will Shine." It's a beautiful song. But explain to me how you did it. I mean, you obviously did it separated from everybody involved. How did that work?
Well, I finished a tour of the USA like March the 9th or some 2020, and I was flying down to Naples in Florida, where my son and his wife and my grandson live, because it was my grandson's birthday on March the 14th, and my wife was meeting me there, and we flew down, and then lockdown lockdown happened, so we never got to actually celebrate my grandson's birthday. And suddenly I was in a condo, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? We can't go anywhere, and I had a couple of guitars with me, that's all. So I built a little studio. I went online and got to Sweetwater and bought some M-Audio equipment and Apple computers and microphones, M-Audio keyboards, and started writing. And the first song I wrote was In These Crazy Times, and I recorded the whole thing on GarageBand, the whole thing.
Really?
And I got my wife to sing backing vocals. She'd never done that before. And I sent the files then to John Davison, the singer of Yes, and said, John, would you put some backing vocals on this? And he sent back to me, and I sent the final mix to my daughter, who manages me, and said, listen to this. And she said, we've got to release it as a single. And we did, and it was called In These Crazy Times. And so we had success with that, and I started writing other songs, and I wrote this song, The Sun Will Shine. But I wanted to include my band because they were working, and I wanted them to feel part of this of the record. So I did the demo and sent the files to my keyboard player. Then the files went to my drummer, and the files went to my guitarist, and the files went to my cello player. And it all came back to me. Then we mixed it all, and I put bass on and all the vocals. And John Davison joined me on the vocals again.
Wow.
And we released a song, The Sun Will Shine.
So this is going to be part of an EP that will be out with a live. Is it a live album that you've got coming out?
Yeah, I've got a live album coming out from the tour, the Royal Affair tour, and it's actually called the Royal Affair and After, because on the Royal Affair tour, I only played like 30 minutes, whatever. So I wanted to include in that the live concerts that I've been doing with my 10,000 Light-Year band, because my whole thing is to keep the Moody Blues music alive. Yeah. So on my live show, I do a song of Mike Pinder's, The Sunset, and I do Legend of a Mine from Ray Thomas. John Davison then joins me on stage, and we do Nights in White Satin. And I got Graham Edge, our drummer, to go into the studio, and he recorded the poem from Long Distance Voyager. So I include that on the show as well.
Wow.
So all that is on the live album that we released in the fall.
You're going to have some very happy bikers out there, John.
Great. I haven't got a bike. I've got a scooter.
So what is the status of the Moody Blues? Is that something that, is now part of your past, or is it something that could be re-earthed somehow? Or where do you guys stand on that?
Well, I think it, I never think of it as a past, but because it's ongoing with me. I am a Moody Blue and will always be a Moody Blue. And if there was a Moody Blue tour, I'd be on the tour. But that's not going to happen. Justin doesn't want to tour with the Moody's, and that's his feeling, and you have to respect that. and
Right.
he doesn't want to do it. But I want to keep the Moody Blues music alive, and so that's why on my concerts it is Moody Blues music, the songs I've written for the Moodies, and as I say, 3 songs from the other guys, because I want to keep their music alive as well.
I guess in a pretty profound way, you have been. I mean, the Moody Blues have been, a thing from as far back as 57 years ago, and maybe even further back than that. I mean, you met, Ray Thomas when you were only, 14 years old. The idea of continuing something for, as long as we're talking here. I mean, aren't you guys sick of each other by now?
No, it's great. We came together to make music, make our music, not anybody else's. And that was a difference with the Moody Blues. It was all down to us. Nobody else at all was involved. Anytime anybody else tried to get involved with a band, it always went wrong. And because always trying to influence us as individuals. And we knew what we wanted to do. And I'm proud to be a Moody Blue and keep the music going.
I wanted to ask you about Ray Thomas, because one of the things that when I saw you guys that really stuck out was, he was such a physically, such a very English presence in your band. It's like one of these guys that seemed like he was 50 when he was probably 30. But I mean, his contribution to the band is so much more than tambourine or flute. I mean, his songwriting, his singing. I mean, he was an essential part of this band. To lose a guy like that had to be, an enormous loss.
Yeah, as I say, Ray and I taught Ray to drive a car. That's how far back we go. And his parents, my parents, because of us, became good friends. And Ray's children and my children became friends because of us. And it was enormous loss. And when I recorded my album 10,000 Light Years ago, I wrote a song for my grandson called Simply Magic. And I went round to Ray's and said, come on, get that flute out. Come on, record with me. And we did, went in the studio, and Ray put on the flute. But Ray had a brilliant voice, a brilliant... he was Welsh stock, so he had this great tenor voice, and when you listen to songs like For My Lady, it's a beautiful, rich tone. And also what was good with Ray, when you were doing harmonies, he seemed to know how to blend his voice into my voice and to Justin's voice. It really worked together. And we had Mike Pinder singing like in the baritone area, Ray on tenor, and Justin and me went high tenor and soprano, really. So Ray fitted beautifully into that place. And also, Ray had a magic sense of humor. It was always great fun.
I was listening to an interview that you had done just a few months ago with a friend of mine, Michael Harrison, and you talked a little bit about Legend of a Mind, which I think is a pretty interesting story since Timothy Leary's dead, but at the time he was very much alive. But tell me about that song and what Timothy Leary's reaction was to it, because I mean he certainly knew it was out there. It certainly became a fan and ultimately a friend of yours, correct?
Yeah, Ray and I were living together in an apartment in London, and Ray used to disappear into his room, and I disappeared in my room. And he came out one day and he said, I'm writing a song about Timothy Leary. We never had met Timothy Leary. We just read about the West Coast in America. And Ray wrote this song, and he sang it to me, and I messed about on the bass with him. on the song, But when we started playing it when we first got to Los Angeles on our first tour, Timothy Leary came to see us straight away, and he invited us up to his ranch, and then he became a good friend, and he used to come and play tambourine on the stage with us. And when his son was growing up, he used to bring his son as well, to the concerts. So I remember him saying to Ray, you may be more famous than I am.
Well, I mean, it did sound like that one of the things that Timothy Leary really enjoyed was free publicity, and he certainly got enough of that with that song.
Yeah.
So so tell me a little bit about El Riot and the Rebels. This was an early iteration of the band between you and Ray and Mike Pinder, correct?
Yeah, Mike joined us for a short while at due time, but when Ray and I started, I think I met Ray was like 40, but we started when I was probably 15, and we formed this band, and Ray, I said to Ray, come on, you got to be the old Riot, and so we became the Riot, and we were the Rebels, and we used to actually wear Mexican clothes because the old Riot thing, and in those days, late 50s, we remember, the people always had a gimmick in a strange way, and we become really successful, actually, on his minor things, but we played with everybody. You probably don't know these bands, but the big bands in England were Johnny Kidd of the Pirates and Nero and the Gladiators. We did all those concerts. And I remember we had a concert we did regularly, a place called Tenbury Town Hall. And we got there one week, and the promoter said to us, you're not top of the bill this month. There's this new band from Liverpool, and they've just released a song this week called Love Me Do. And it was the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I've still got a photograph from that night, and it was an amazing time.
You're right before the British invasion starts. The Beatles come to New York, and all of a sudden, every band in England is coming here, or being signed by a record company. Being in bands and being a musician. I mean, what was the feeling? Obviously, everyone's looking for a gimmick and looking for that way of getting noticed. But I mean, was it as feverish of a scene as it is depicted to be? I mean, it just sounds like everybody was fair game to be recording singles at the time.
Well, in England, it was really there's a word in English called parochial, and it really was. All the bands at the time, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Zombies, the Who, the Kinks, we were all playing the same venues around England, actually around Britain. Mm-hmm. It was real competition. Who was top of the heap in a way. And then the Beatles made it in America massive. And I don't think English bands thought about America at the time, because it was a different thing for the Beatles. They were a phenomenon which couldn't be replicated, I think. And but all I remember at the time was the American bands I wanted to see. People like Candide and Jefferson Airplane and the bands I really wanted to see in America. I think when we went to America the first time, it wasn't because of the success of Days of Future Past and In Search of the Lost Chord and Nights in White Satin and Ride My Seesaw. It's because we wanted to be part of the music scene, which was going all across America.
Right. So you joined the band in 1966. The band had already had a hit with Go Now. Denny Lane leaves the band. And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the record company was hoping for more of Go Now and not necessarily can we get the London Festival Orchestra to join these guys. Obviously, the Days of Future Past is a wonderful, complicated, concept record. But what was the reaction of the record company when you guys said this is what we're going to present as our second record?
They didn't dig it. They didn't understand it at all. It's quite strange because when what happened, Ray rang me and said, because I was like a couple of years younger than the rest of the guys in the band, and when they went down to London and made Go Now, I was still at college, and Ray rang me after Denny left and said, "Hey, Rocker," he always called me Rocker. "Hey, Rocker, have you finished college yet?" And I said, "Yeah, I've just finished." He said, "Get down to London." And went down to London, met up with Ray again and Mike, and we discussed what we wanted to do. And we didn't want to do anything again covering anybody else's records. Right. I remember the record company wanted us to do Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and we just laughed and said, that's not who we are. We're not doing that. When we did Days of Future Past, the record company thought we were making a sampler album to say how good stereo was, and they got the hardware to play it on, which they were trying to sell. And they didn't see the album. They didn't see it at all. We were just quite lucky. There was two people at the playback. They had a classical guy called Hugh Mendel at Decca Records, but also a guy called Walt McGuire from New York, who was the vice president of London Records. And he understood it. He knew where we were at. And we got rid of everybody else. We said to the record company, we don't want to work with your A&R department. We don't want to work with anybody at all. We just want to do all this ourselves. And we did.
Yeah, and you released two of maybe the biggest singles of your career, Nights of White Satin and Tuesday Afternoon. Whether you like that or not, I don't know how you listen to those songs in 1960, whatever it is, and not say, these are major smash hits, these two songs.
Well, yeah, and what's really interesting about them, the unusual songs and musical arrangements we were doing at that time was unusual. People couldn't understand. Like a song called Peak Hour. It's out and out rock and roll, and it stops, and then you're in the middle of a cathedral singing slowly with full harmonies. And the reaction to songs like that was totally different to what everyone was expecting, I think.
I think one of the things that is unusual, and people don't maybe realize this, but back then it wasn't a real popular thing for bands to record their own songs. A lot of it was they were songwriters would provide songs. Certainly, Go Now was a cover song from an old R&B song that it wasn't. I don't even know if it was actually released in the UK.
Bessie Banks,
right?
It was a Bessie Banks song.
But what's unusual about the Moody Blues is everybody in the band had writing credits for those songs. There was nobody there, between you and Graham and Mike Pinder and Justin. You were all writing songs, and all of them were really quite good.
Yeah, we were all different people. We all got our own personalities, and the blues is about writing how you came about, what brought you where you were at that time in life, and the Delta blues out to Mississippi and Helena is exactly the same. You write about how you've grown up, how you were, where you're living, your family, everything, and that's what we concentrated on. And because we were all different type of people, we all came at the same subject from a different place.
You after the Octave album, several years later, Mike Pinder leaves the band, and I think Mike, just because he may have left so long ago, is probably the least understood member of the band. I mean, people I think associate you and Justin and Ray, but Mike Pinder, I think his influence in that band can't be understated. I mean, he was an enormous part of this band, and left to start a family. What was that transition like to have a guy who more or less started this band with everybody else to suddenly say, you know what, I think I've had enough?
Yeah, it was a sad time because Mike and I were really good friends, and we used to spend a lot of time talking to each other on philosophy, and we'd find all the abstract books which nobody heard of, and we discuss a million things, religion, everything. And Mike and I definitely had a really good rapport musically as well. He knew what I wanted, and I think I knew what he wanted from me. And it really, really worked. But Mike wanted to go to America, like in 74, and live in America. And so we just took a break. Okay, let's see what happens. It wasn't a case of Mike saying, I don't want to be in the band anymore. But he made his own life in America. And when we went to America, Mike obviously played on the Octave album, and we recorded a lot of the songs actually in his studio called Indigo Ranch in Malibu. But I think Mike really did want to go on the road. We were going to go on the road and promote the album and see where we went, And I think Mike didn't want to do that. And it was a sad day for me because I really enjoyed Mike's company.
I interviewed him many years ago, and he seemed like an extraordinarily nice man. He just seemed like a very, very pleasant guy. And I would imagine if you're so close to a guy and he's no longer there, then it must seem just bizarre to continue something without a guy like that.
Yeah, because you've got a friend in the band, which is fantastic. But also, when we were recording, I could see how Mike would play a particular thing when he wasn't there. So when we got other keyboard players come afterwards, there was always this thing was, for me, how would Mike do it? That's the important thing. Because Mike was a master of minimal work, and in other words, it played a part that just knocked you out. It wasn't all over the place.
Yeah.
It was specific places. It would put things in a song, and you go, yes, that is perfect.
In 1981, it had been a couple of years between, the Octave album and 1981 when you guys released, Long Distance Voyager, which winds up becoming a platinum record. I mean, it's like you guys just came out swinging on that record. It was like a number of hits, and it was one of those great records where I think people at the time were like, "This is the Moody Blues," and then you realize, "Wow, this was just a fantastic record."
Yeah, it was a record I wanted to make. I always thought making an Octave was the wrong move, the wrong time. And that's why I wrote a song called Stepping in the Slide Zone, because everything went wrong making that album. We were recording at the record plant, and that burned down while we were recording. We managed to salvage the tapes, and then we went up into Indigo Ranch. We were recording up there, and then the mudslides happened, and we got stuck up in the mountains of Malibu. So everything went wrong making that album, and then Mike left. It was a sad day. But the album turned out really good. I was really pleased with the album. That worked. But Long Distance Voyager we just had a major tour of America, and we were really working well together again on stage. Interaction musically was fantastic. And we went to this studio, our own studio we'd built called Westlake Audio Studio in London, and we recorded the album with a new producer, Pip Williams. And I was very proud of the album because we had Gemini Dream, the voice talking out of turn, 22,000 days. It was, really for me, it was the right album.
It was a very, very strong record. Like I said, that was one of the ones that I had, and I remember really enjoying every part of it. And again, the bikers love the poetry, so that was a good.
Fabulous.
But I want to, because you've hinted around a little bit here about when Mike Pinder left and subsequent keyboard players, and I know, and I remember watching the trial in 1991 between Patrick Moraz and the rest of you guys in the band, and the case that you made was that he was not a member of the band, a full-fledged member of the band, and it was a very interesting trial, whether or not, you can speak to that or not, but, in hindsight, all these years later, what's your feeling about what happened in that trial?
I never look back. I have no emotion about it at all. I don't think about things like that. I never have done.
Yeah.
I think if you dwell in anything like that in your life, you're lost. So I don't know. I've seen Patrick since. I was on a cruise a couple of years ago, and Patrick was on the cruise plane. It doesn't. I don't think about it.
Do you?
At all. It was a great time. We made a great album with Patrick. And all I can say, he did really good. And I get on with keyboard players, bass players and keyboard players. They really gel together. And so I have no thoughts about it at all.
You've I assume that the schedule for the remainder of the year. I know that this year. I don't know if you're looking at playing out dates yet, or I know you're going to be part of a cruise next year. I think the Hollies and the Zombies are a part of that to San Juan. Is that still moving forward?
Yeah, that's still on. It's all sold out. I was with one of the Procol Harum guys today, and they said, they're on it. Gary Brooker, I was with Gary as well, and it looks a great tour. A great festival on the sea. So I hope that happens. And I'm putting a tour around of the USA around about that tour as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll see what happens with all this COVID lockdown, all that rubbish, it's been a loss to everyone.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens.
Well, prior to the pandemic, the Zombies played in our area here in Massachusetts, and they played Odyssey and Oracle in its entirety, and you could just tell that Colin and Rod Argent were just having the time of their lives. They were fantastic, and Colin's voice to this day sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant band.
Really, they really were, and really are, for that matter. So the new single, like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. It's called "The Sun Will Shine." The EP and the album, The Royal Affair and After, that's scheduled for a September release.
Yeah, September, October the fall. It's double gatefold vinyl record coming with 180 gram. We've finished it all. It's just manufacturing now. Vinyl is making a great comeback, but finding a factory that makes a vinyl to the standard and the quality that I want is really difficult. Of course, all the best manufacturing places, booked up for months.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's September, October.
That's great. Well, John, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate the time and best of luck with the single and the upcoming stuff in September.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the interview, and stay safe yourself.
You too, John. Thank you very much. The new album by John Lodge is coming out this fall called The Royal Affair and After, and the new single is available right now called The Sun Will Shine. Thanks again for listening to the show. I'd love to hear what you think. You can reach me at bax@rock102.com. Feel free to share it amongst your friends, and thanks for listening to Baxy's Musical Podcast.